republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Could we get a roll call, please?
Chairperson Winters,
Here.
Vice Chairperson Wilson,
Here.
Commissioner Davis,
Here.
Commissioner Ezell,
Here.
Commissioner Rogers.
Has everybody had the opportunity to look at the previous minutes and our emergency meeting from December the 13th, 21 and December the 21st? Any additions, corrections?
Do we need to change the minutes to show that Mr. Watkins did show up in the first line under 711 State Line Road? Mr. Watkins did not show up for the hearing, and correct that, because him and make it here.
I think it needs to be reflected that he did in fact appear, and we did have that hearing, and we
Okay.
actually readdressed it, so it does need to reflect. Does it say that anywhere else in there?
It does.
It does.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, it's in there.
At the 24-minute mark.
Okay, that being noted, we have a motion.
I make a motion, we accept the minutes from December 13th and December 21st.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to second. Could I have a roll call vote, please, to accept the minutes from December 13th and December the 21st, 2021?
Vice Chairperson Wilson,
Yes.
Commissioner Davis,
Yes.
Commissioner Ezell,
Yes.
Chairperson Winters.
Yes, ma'am. Our first house property on the agenda for tonight is 3402 Shadowlawn Drive. We have an update from that property, please.
Mr. Sullivan came in and pulled a permit for his tent pole on November 16th of last year. So he is, I think, actually, he just passed his inspection just the other day. So he is moving along. He's ready for his building permit now, and then all of his trades.
You have a recommendation, what you'd like for us to do? You want to keep it open, or you want to close it?
This is the second time he has gotten this far. I'd like to keep it open,
Okay.
just at least for one more meeting, just to,
And he had the property sold at one point, and it fell through.
yeah.
Okay, they went in and started to do the initial upgrades on the property, and then they backed out.
Yes, correct.
So would you like to, first to push it to March?
Can we push it for 2 months?
That's fine with me. I'd like to make a motion, we push this piece of property to the meeting on March the 14th, 2022.
I'll second it.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. We get a roll call vote for 3402 Shadowlawn Drive, moving the meeting up for 90 days to March 14th, 2022.
Vice Chairperson Wilson,
Yes.
Commissioner Davis,
Yes.
Commissioner Ezell,
Yes.
Chairperson Winters.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Ritchie, is Mr. On that property, 3402, Ulysses Sullivan still the owner that we know of?
He is.
Okay.
Our next property on the agenda is 2022 Reeves Avenue. We have an update on that property.
I literally got an update at 4:36, and Donald Payne is going to start work on January 31st. I know we passed it for 2 months last time to make sure that he was going to start work in that time. Mr. Payne is very, very busy, and I do have a start date. This one's been going on for 2 years now.
Right.
And that there for 16?
As I know it, yeah.
Why don't we move it to March? Days? Or give her 60 days? Because we know we're going to have rains and bad weather.
He
January.
did say,
Weather permitting.
well, he said it would only take a couple of weeks once he got started.
Okay.
So,
What would your preference be, February or March?
Like I said, we've been going on for 2 years now. I don't think 2 more months is gonna
Okay.
hurt.
I'd like to make a motion, we move this 1222 Reeves Avenue to the meeting on March the 14th, 2022 at 5:30 PM.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. We have a second.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion second. Get a roll call, please.
Vice Chairperson Wilson,
Yes.
Commissioner Davis,
Yes.
Commissioner Ezell,
Yes.
Chairperson Winters.
Yes, ma'am.
What was that date?
March 14th.
3 days before St. Patrick's Day. Our next property on the agenda is 3416 Land Street. Do we have any representatives here from that property? You give us an update on that one, please, Charlie.
So this was, it was supposed to be a show cause hearing. We made contact. It was hand delivered, signed for. She knew to be here tonight. The property needs to be cleaned up inside and out before I can see anything structurally that's wrong with the place. She was told that by Officer Holder. So kind of,
What was her response to you?
When I went to deliver the papers to her, I explained everything that we went over in the emergency meeting. She said that she understood and that she was going to be here. That's really all that she gave me.
Litchford, do they need to be sworn in since?
Yeah, we sort of have a standing swearing in, but let's. Okay. Well, let's do this. Ms. Ezell? Yes. Hi. Your case has just been called, so you're that's okay.
Gas meter doesn't work on my car.
That's fine. If you want to come forward, let's just to kind of give it. First of all, let's have you're at a hearing here today, and this is being recorded. So we've got everything, so you'll have a record of everything, and so will we. You received a copy of the last order that Ms. Holder hand delivered to you, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I thought so. Okay. So what we're here today is in connection with your matter. This is a show cause for today. If you recall, the last order that was on December 21st that was given to you, the property at that time had been condemned for purposes of habitation. Has anyone been living in the home that you know of?
No.
Okay. That property, as it sits today, has been declared unfit for habitation and is a danger to the community because of all the items that are. I understand there's a lot of items around the property. Is that correct?
A lot of,
Is there let me ask this. Mr. Ritchie, are there items on the property that are deeming it right now to be unsatisfactory for purposes of human habitation, otherwise pose a threat?
on the property and inside
Okay.
the property.
And we'll get to that in just a second, Ms. Edel. Okay. That's what the findings were as of the meeting of December 21st.
I see.
Okay. All right. So are you here today to represent yourself?
yes, sir.
Okay. All right, that's fine. Let's do this then. Let's have anyone that will be providing a testimony here today raise your hand, so we'll have this, and what we'll do is we'll swear you in. Then we're going to get an update from what Codes has done, and then since December 21st, we'll want to hear from you as to what actions, if any, have been taken relative to the property. Okay? All right, let's go ahead and raise right hands. Okay? All right. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Let's start first. We'll start with the city so that we can get an update from December 21st, and then from there, Ms. Ezell, we'll come back to you. Okay?
So spawned by the police calls from people being in the house after it was condemned, we did have the bottom windows boarded off and all the doors boarded off, with the exception of the front door, and we had a lasp put on it. That price came up to $1,704. Other than that, we've had no more calls, and the property still sits as it did.
You still have photographs that the investigator made when they went to the property?
Got quite a few.
Okay.
Pass them around or?
Well, in case she objects, you can point out what you're making reference to.
Do we have copies, Missy Zell? Do we have copies in the file that we can give to Missy Zell?
I don't on me. I think they were all, I have my file. I don't mind to pass it if I need to.
Okay, yeah, let's at least let her see them there, because what I want to establish here, this order that you were handed last time, Mrs. Zell, it had all the photographs to it, didn't it? Okay, they did? Yep, okay. Okay. All right. Mr. Ritchie, with respect to the photographs that were attached to the December 21st order, are those conditions, according to the city, still remain?
Yes.
Ms. Ezell, this is an opportunity for you. Okay, so what we have is the photos that you have, those are what were attached to the order, correct? Okay. Where you sit now, under Title 13 of the East Ridge City Code, there's requirements for property owners to keep their respective properties in compliance with all code regulations of the city. You have a notice there that is in front of you that provided notice to you as to what those violations were, which stems from an inspection performed by the city back in December. That's when we had the emergency. As I understand it, you now live somewhere in East Springer, correct?
Yes.
Okay. The commission found in December that the property is currently in such a disrepair that it's not fit for human habitation, and that there is a need to limit, to take efforts to improve this property, to bring it into compliance with all applicable codes. Okay, those photographs are what the city, this body here, relied upon in making those determinations, and that was the order that was entered in December. Okay. Now, and you've got a copy there in front of you, correct?
Yes, sir.
So let's do this. Mrs. Can you tell us what actions you've taken since the receipt of that, which was on December 21st? What actions have you taken to take efforts to bring the property back into compliance?
Not any, because I was told, there was a new order, if I'm not sure if I'm calling it the correct thing, that no one could be there at any time to do anything. However, on the things I could do, I have a licensed home builder and contractor, that is, it's a Bots Construction Company, and the gentleman knows I'm not in a financial position to pay anyone a lot of money, and he said he'll do anything to help me and let me pay him back on time or whatever I need to do. So I guess without being able to go to the property yet, that's all I really knew to do, was to try to maybe set up ways for improvement and to have these remedied. When the inspectors were first called out, I knew upon then I was not to be on my property, unless I got permission. And I don't know if it were COVID that I had or what, but I was so sick I wouldn't have probably done anything anyway. However, during the time before the special called hearing, and when I was aware that they were coming out, I knew they would probably condemn the home. I knew that. I've not been back to my house since. The vagrants or whomever it may be that got in there, I have no earthly idea that anybody was going to be at my home. So I do want to say that. And I, from what I understand, they did tow a car. I don't know if they arrested anybody that was in my home, but I'd be in full support of that because I didn't go to my home. I haven't had any, I'm sorry, I'm just emotional, but I haven't had any clothing besides what I grabbed. Some of my grandson's Christmas was in there, but I didn't go back there. I know the rules, and I apologize that, people were stupid enough or whatever to still try to enter my home. I understand they kicked the door in down the stairs. And if I knew who did this, within that time, because, I was not going to my house at all, and it infuriates me that anybody would when I can't go to my house.
We're
But
not
I'm
here to
sorry.
try to
I'm an
humiliate you,
emotional
ma'am.
person anyway.
Ma'am, we're not here to try to humiliate you or embarrass you or anything. We're trying to find a solution to the problem we've got. These individuals that come to your house during the night, they park their car on the next street over, jump the
what I heard.
fence and run between the houses and run into your property. You don't have any idea who these individuals are?
I think I do. From the description of the vehicle, it sounds like, there's I don't know his last name. I know his first name's
Are
Carrington.
you not aware of it when they come into your property, your residence? That you could call the police department and get them to respond to have these people removed?
Well, I didn't know they were there. I was staying in East Brainerd.
I got you. Yeah.
How long has it been since you've been at your home for any extended period of time?
December the 2nd or 3rd, something like that.
We dealt with this once before, and Mr. Ritchie stuck his neck out and got dumpsters delivered, and we worked
did,
and worked and worked.
absolutely.
And here we are again.
I know.
And we can't keep doing this, not with that property either. When you get it cleaned up, what are your plans? You going to live in it? You going to sell it? You going to rent it? What are you going to do? Because we have an obligation to the citizens and the neighbors around there. It's creating a problem for the neighbors with things getting carried off out of their carports, their garages, parking in their yards, damaging their property, and it's got to stop. And unfortunately, the property's in your name, so you're the person where it lands. And, with that, where we had it boxed up or secured where nobody could get in, there will be a lien placed against your property for those fees of $1,700 or so. And when I looked before I came in here today, your property taxes for February still haven't been paid. So that's just going to add up and just burden you even more. So we'd kind of like to have an idea of what you're going to do, or do we need to just come to an agreement that place needs to be sold or torn down and move forward? Because inside, people were using buckets for the bathroom, and they're still sitting there. And that's just unacceptable. It's not fair to your neighbors. It's not fair to you. It's not fair to your property. People are being very disrespecting to you by doing that. And
I was not aware of.
it's, from the pictures that we've seen in discussions with the codes, it's really disgusting. In many ways, it's worse than it was the first time. Last time there was lots more things visible outside, but the cleanliness inside is just disgusting. And, there's no electricity, no water there right now, correct? So, we'll work with you the best we can, but we've got to see some kind of action and a game plan of what you're going to do. And we're going to keep bringing you back every 30 days till it gets to a point where we can finally get codes to approve this. Any permits that you need to have the gentleman contact Mr. Ritchie, be in touch with him, and also he will need to know who's going to be coming there working, because the minute somebody shows up and the neighbors call the police go out there, and at the end of the day, it's a wasted call, and Mr. Ritchie's got to drop what he's doing, or Miss Holder, and go out and tell the police, no, you don't arrest these people, they're cleaning the place up. So it's a cascade of effects that we just don't really need to deal with.
I understand. And
Oh.
to answer your question, I'm thinking, since I'm not very effective in telling people, I mean, I've literally told one gentleman, no, I don't need a roommate. You can't live here. And he just did anyway. And that's my fault that I can't be assertive enough. And I'm very frustrated with myself about things of that nature. I mean, there are things I could have done to take it a step further.
Well, things in the past we can't do anything about. What we want to know what's going to happen moving forward as we go. We're going to try to work with you, not against you, but we're going to have to see some type of effort and in a timely manner. And I know it's not the greatest time of year with the weather, but the neighbors deserve that. You deserve it. I mean, that house has been passed down to you from what I remember the first time we dealt with this, and we just like to see it cleaned up or sold to somebody that would clean it
This
up.
construction company you were mentioning that stated they would help you, who is he? And is he a licensed business in Tennessee?
He's worked for Home Depot. I don't know if you're familiar with, like, any work that Home Depot needs done. You can go through and choose a list of contractors, and he's on that list, so he's done a lot of jobs through Home Depot. So he's employed by Home Depot, but it's sort of like a subcontracting thing. And
He's licensed to go out and install
Yes.
their products
yes.
from Home Depot?
Yes. He told me to tell you all I could get letterhead stating that, that he is willing, to help me and to negotiate payment plans and things of that nature. And to answer your question, what I was trying to say is, I do think I'm going to fix it up and sell it, is what I plan to do. Because I can't reasonably say no
You can't keep
effectively.
doing this physically.
Right.
Because it's tearing you up and it's putting your health at grave danger. So, I don't think you have a hard time selling it. Property value right now in East Ridge is a premium, and it might be your quicker resolution to deal with the stress of finding somebody that wanted to buy it right now.
That's what I thought through those avenues as well.
Mr. Ritchie, let me make something. The city can come in and make these, of the items that are in the photograph to clean the property up, and the city would do it. You don't pay until you just it's a lien. So you're not having to come out of pocket. It comes out when you sell the property eventually, and that may be a best method for you to be able to afford it, is that there is no out of pocket right now. City does it. They do the lien, and it's something that can get done. Would you have any objection to the city coming and making these improvements that need to be made to get the property at least in the direction coming into compliance?
Excuse me. Absolutely not. When you say making improvements, what type of
Well,
things?
that's a great question. Let's hear from Mr. Ritchie, and let's see. The question I really have, Mr. Ritchie, is what would you, from the codes, have recommendations as to starting points in the phased improvements, and what do you think the city could do to really expedite that and get it done?
So starting points, I've got to have 36 inches to every window, every aisleway, all the way through the house.
Interior.
Interior.
A pathway clear.
I've got to be able to walk through safely. I do know that we're going to have building permits. We're going to have plumbing permits, and we're going to have electrical permits, just from what I've seen. I am assuming there's more. I can't confirm that without the stuff being taken off the property, or at least cleaned up, put in boxes so I can walk through.
Staff-wise, from the city perspective, do we have people in place that can go in and clean that up right now without facing a burden on other departments within our city, such as sanitation?
I would have to talk to the other supervisors of the departments. We do have a crew that we've used in the past for stuff like this.
Exterior is codes comfortable right now with exterior, or is there anything on the exterior?
No, there's plenty on the exterior as well. We've got a major plumbing leak on the outside somewhere as well. There's toilet paper, there's raw sewage in the backyard everywhere.
All right. What about debris, rubbish around there?
There's plenty of that,
Okay.
especially in the backyard.
All right. So, Ms. Ezell, you've got the photographs there, and these photographs there reflect what these items are.
I think those were just where we replaced the placards, the condemned placards, before we had it boarded up is what's on attached, but there is the photographs from
Okay.
when we went out.
I know there were several things in my driveway, but I'm not sure, but, well,
Ms. Ezell, one possible resolution would be Mr. Ritchie can provide identification here today as to a starting point for the city to go in and get us to this February meeting. The next, I think we have one.
February 14th.
February 14th would be the next meeting. Mr. Ritchie, could you identify what you think would be a realistic action plan between now and February 14th that the city could go in and get started on repairs, whether go in or on the exterior, and that would include the surrounding portions of the residence?
I mean, if the house is going to stay boarded up, or minimal access to the house, if we can start cleaning up on the exterior, that's probably going to go a long way. And yeah, we can probably send crews for that.
All right. Ms. Ezell, you're looking at photographs there. On the exterior, is there any items that you, if any items that you want to maintain and not have the city remove? And if there are items that you want to maintain, do you have the ability to do something with those to remove them from the property? If they're items that aren't permitted to be in the property.
well, this, actually, the big pile of junk, it was an informal burn pile, but I didn't know if I were allowed to burn it or not, and it was very dry before all this took place, so I didn't figure it'd be a good idea to burn it, but that's been accumulating for quite some time, but I didn't want to sit on fire. But I know there were some flower pots and some old fencing up against, like, right there. And that's just a water hose container. I mean, but most of these things are worthless to me. I mean, I have no attachment nor.
Mr. Ritchie, you're looking at stuff there. Anything? I know she's mentioned the informal burn pile. She's mentioned some pots.
I mean, I don't care about.
Right. Okay. Mr. Ritchie, anything else you would see between now and this coming February that you would want to identify here as, let's go ahead and get these removed from the property to get this improvements initiated?
Absolutely, yeah. So, I mean, just all the debris on the outside. It's a lot, but it's not for a crew to go in and get it.
And can that realistically be done before February 14th?
Absolutely.
All right. So if we start with exterior improvements.
I'm answering for Robert Parker.
Understood. But what I guess what I'm trying to get at here, Ms. Ezell, is you've made a good point. You've identified a concern that financially you can't come out of pocket right now. And what I'm telling you is the city has resources that it's able to go in and make these improvements. And it will be, now to be clear, it will be attached as a lien on the property, but you're not out of pocket. The only time you're out of pocket is when you sell the property. At that point, that's when payment would be made, but you're going to have proceeds. Is there any mortgage on the property right now?
Yes.
Okay. Any idea, who's the mortgage carrier?
It was Securus, but they recently sold it to a different company, and I cannot remember the name of it.
Okay. I'll try to do some title search and see if I can get, between now and February, to get some response and some information. Any idea roughly what the equity would be in the property?
Do not No, I know it's just a ballpark figure, and it's probably way off considering they don't realize what the interior, but the city, like, with the increases in East Ridge City
Property tax.
property tax, like, it
I brought it last week, but I
Said,
didn't bring
like,
it back. I mean, last month.
almost worth, and like I said, this is probably
that's fine.
way
Yeah.
off, but it had increased to like 145. And the mortgage, my mom never lived in the home. She just had it in her name. So I've been there 23 years, and I'm thinking roughly the payoff, again, ballpark is like 90.
Okay.
I
So
don't,
just using rough math, somewhere in the neighborhood of around 50,000 would be that delta, that difference between what's owed and what it's worth would be about 50,000. And my point is, you wouldn't pay that today. If the city goes in and makes these repairs, you're not paying that today. When you sell the house, that's when the city gets repaid that amount. And it's a way that basically offers you the ability to get the improvements done without coming out of pocket today. Now, and what that does allow is the city that has the resources to go in and start making these improvements. And I notify you of this, Ms. Ezell, because this body has the authority, if it's not satisfied with what's going on with the property, it can make orders to go in and remove whatever it needs to remove to get the property back into compliance. What I'm trying to offer to you here is an opportunity to work with Mr. Ritchie and his crew so that we identify in a phased cleanup what you would like to keep and maintain, what you're ready for to just be considered discardable. And then we come back in February and we're getting a plan in place to get this property brought into compliance. Because if I'm hearing Mr. Ritchie right, I think there's a lot of work that needs to get done. And it's not necessarily going to get done in 30 days. So let's start a plan. It also eliminates you having to rely on somebody that may or may not show up. And Mr. Ritchie is telling you, if I hear him right, he can get a crew to get in there and at least start the cleanup.
I can get a crew to start cleaning up on the
Okay.
outside.
Now-
Inside's a different story. I'm going to have to,
Well, I want to start with the exterior. All right, so Miss Ezell, I think Mr. Ritchie's identified in those photographs, he can clean all that up by February. Am I hearing that right?
yes.
And what I'm hearing from you, Miss Ezell, you're okay with the items in the yard being removed? That there's not anything there that you would like
Yes,
to
I-
preserve?
if it were plausible, I'd like to be there at the
Yeah,
onset,
absolutely.
and I'll be happy to help. I mean,
Absolutely. No,
I want
I'm
it
not
cleaned up
suggesting you can't
also.
be. I think
But
Mr.
that way I could, be like I'm noticing this is my ex-husband's lawnmower, and I have to hang on to it. He let me borrow it, and
Okay.
things of that nature
But
that
I
I'd
think
hate to just
Mr. Ritchie would be pretty reasonable with you to find a home for that, even if we have, is there a garage to this place?
sort of.
Okay, well, let's worry about that. Let me ask, we do have her contact, right?
Yes.
We have good contact information. And Ms. Ezell, what I'm suggesting to you, Mr. Ritchie would talk to you about when they're going out there
Okay.
and that they can get, but, I think it's important that we sort of identify if there's a lawnmower, you want to keep that, for now, at least for now, that might be okay. But there's items on this property that are not otherwise an interest in preserving. We need to remove those. And Mr. Ritchie's telling you, we can get that crew out there.
Long as my higher-ups are good with it, we're,
Right. Well, and the reason I say this, Ms. Ezell, is this body has the authority to impose automatic cleanup that wouldn't necessarily. You're not entitled to just be there on property to pick and choose what goes. They're going to restore it to compliance. I'm trying to help you because now we're sort of hitting that middle ground where compliance is going to be achieved through action steps that the city's going to provide with you being on site to be able to say, hey guys, I'd like to protect this. I'd like to, but now we're going to have to get those will be resolved at some point. It may just not be by February. But if Mr. Ritchie can get a crew on there to start the cleanup efforts. Now, that's on the exterior. Mr. Ritchie, if I understand it right, we think there's an ability to get started and get cleaned, improved by February with respect to exterior.
correct.
My question now is, do we have the resources to simultaneously start efforts on the interior? Or if we're using everything on the exterior, we may just not have that.
Everybody would be on the exterior.
Okay.
Interior is a whole different beast.
Well, would codes recommend let's get the exterior going first and then get the interior? Or would you suggest we get all the interior going and not worry about the exterior?
Yeah, definitely get the exterior done first and then move on to interior. Probably a floor at a time.
Right. Okay. And now during this time, Ms. Ezel, there would not be a lifting of the current order that has the property condemned, which is currently not, no one is permitted to stay in there and live in there.
Would it still be enforced like I know when it's condemned, you can still, with approval, as long as you call, you can go and work on your property during the day on set hours if you got approval. Can you still do that? Because
Let's ask Mr. Ritchie, because he knows more about the property. Let's ask Mr. Ritchie. What's your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. From normal business hours, Monday through Friday, if she wants to come over to the property and start grabbing clothes from the interior, that would be great. That would help
I would love
tremendously.
to.
All right. All right, so again, would this board be satisfied with having the city, entering an order that the city initiate efforts to get the property exterior brought up to codes to do whatever it can between now and February 14 with respect to the exterior, come back on February 14 to see what improvements the city has been able to accomplish, coupled with allowing Ms. Ezel access into the inside to collect whatever items, during normal hours she can collect. Is this body satisfied with that action step between now and February?
I'd like to see Miss Ezel and codes swap viable working phone numbers for you to have access to her. If she contacts you either by text or call, you respond as promptly and as quickly as you can, because they're pulled very thin. It's just the two of them are in codes right now. We're dealing with COVID like everybody else, and we just need to make sure that you're in contact. If he lets you go over to go in or gives you access there's a padlock on the front, right?
There is.
Okay.
And she's got a lock or a key, and I have one.
Okay. If we were to give her access to that key, I would be more comfortable with stipulation that no outside individuals other than that you take with you at the time of getting any of that stuff out of that house go into that property. We don't want the stuff going on in the middle of the night. I think by cleaning it up this way too, it will show the neighbors that you're making an effort and kind of be an olive branch to them, because they're upset.
Is there any reason why this contractor friend of yours at Home Depot couldn't obtain a license and complete some of these problems that code enforcement has brought out against it?
A lot of the cleanup you don't need any.
I'm talking about interior, like the plumbing, if he's a licensed plumber, or if he's an electrician.
Yeah, I mean, if he's a licensed
could
plumber, a
address
licensed
those.
electrician, yeah, absolutely, he can pull the.
Of course,
as long as
that
he's
would be at
licensed in
your
the state of
expense,
Tennessee.
ma'am, but he could address some if he's going to help you out. He could address some of these and bring them into compliance so the city doesn't charge you for them.
Right. And unfortunately, I don't think he's a licensed plumber nor electrician. He's more of a home builder, but he said he can repair things, but he's not licensed to you know how an electrician has to be an electrician to come in and do certain things.
He's a
I mean, he
carpenter.
knows how to do it, but he's not
Yeah.
licensed in all those
So-
different
Trades.
Unfortunately, I mean, it would have to be a licensed electrician, licensed plumber.
Now that it's at this point.
As
where
far
we
as the
are.
building permit, absolutely. She can actually pull the building permit and work on it herself. Some of the issues, I don't think that's the best case scenario, but it is an option.
Access to the home for her to get her things, would we not need to classify that just to business or daylight hours, and then she would return the access and
Yep.
possession back to the city?
Well,
Just to prevent you know. any
Just in
kind
the
of-
past, how we've kind of handled that, anytime we've had one master locked up, we'll meet them out there, we unlock it, we go back at 4 o'clock and lock it back up,
Monday through Friday.
Monday through Friday.
Yeah. Ms. Ezell, does that work for you?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Let me ask this, Mr. Ritchie. I may have commented a little. Is there any observations or concerns you have with sort of what I've sort of suggested might be a proposal here?
No, absolutely not. It's going to be a work in progress. There's a lot to do.
Is there anything you want to add to what I've suggested to this body?
Once it gets cleaned out, I'm going to have to go with re-inspect.
Correct.
And see what
Right.
else is
So we're
structurally
looking
wrong
at a
with it.
3 or 4 month project right now, just from,
Absolutely.
so
So, Ms. Ezell, that's, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mr. Wilson.
I'd like to make a suggestion that she take tonight and sleep on this and discuss it with the other individual that you said could clean it up, and think about, weigh the options of what Mr. Litchford and the city has suggested they can do, and, you know, just make your decision from an informed, rested mind, so that, you know, you're not as emotional and you make the right decision for you. You know, we need it taken care of, and
All right, so what we could do then with that observation, Mr. Wilson, why don't you can pass a motion, it may be a lengthy one, but we can sort of word it that this body would move to allow Ms. Ezell, you know, till Wednesday to get back with the city. What's this gentleman's name?
Danny Botts,
Hey,
Botts
rings a
of
bell.
Botts Construction.
Danny Botts.
Yes.
All right. Why don't we, what I'm trying to strike a balance between here is if this body has an intent, if I hear code enforcement, their recommendation is this property needs to get cleaned up, you know, and efforts made between now and February. We would not know if Mr. Bott's opinion on this until February if we wait till then. If this body has more of what you could do is sort of give until Wednesday for Ms. Ezell to get Mr. Botts an opportunity to come in, meet with Mr. Ritchie, or maybe you want to give him till Friday. Give him to Friday to meet with Mr. Ritchie. But that this body go ahead and enter an order that the city start and have completed the exterior improvements by February 14, and to the extent Mr. Botts assures the city, hey, he can get that done prior to that time, then he'll take that on. Otherwise, the city will have it done by February 14.
It's just a little premature for me to be meeting with him because I don't know everything until it gets cleaned out.
I'm just talking about exterior.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I'm only
Okay.
talking exterior. I don't think there's an order that I would suggest here related to the interior right now. This gives Ms. Ezell 30 days or however to get Mr. Botts perhaps to walk through, if he can, the interior. He might can give her some numbers and figures so that she knows what she's looking at between now and February with respect to interior. And then you can make a decision, you know, by February, Ms. Botts, as to what you think might be available to you for improvements through Mr. Botts. If the numbers aren't working, then the city has the ability to go in and make these repairs. And again, those would be liens attached that you would not be out of pocket until after you sold the property. Okay? And so it is, financially, it's a way to sort of get, it's not a free loan, all right? There is interest on it, but you're not having to go through qualification or anything, but you're getting the repairs that do need to be made on the property.
I have a question. If that were to happen, is the city like obligated to like a medium charge, or can they just, I don't mean to sound,
They don't upcharge. I mean, Mr.
I
Richard can
guess-
tell you what these charges are fair market
is
value.
there a high tax? I mean, is it, I'm just scared of getting way in over my head, I guess is
I
what
don't,
I'm
I don't
saying.
have the figures, but, so they charge by the hour per man, per truck, but it's all fair market.
Standard, we're not looking to try to make, you know, the city's not looking to try to achieve compliance.
Yeah.
I will tell you, the rates I've seen on others that are very comparable and competitive rates that, you know, my guess is, you know, the city's finding people that's qualified to do these.
And the more I do on own, get rid of and stuff, that would help. It's,
The city's only gonna be responsible for cleaning the outside.
That's right.
Um,
That's right. So right now, it's the city's efforts would be to get the exterior cleaned up. It allows you 30 days, just a little over 30 days to get Mr. Botts to evaluate the interior. Part of your motion might be to have Mr. Botts appear on February 14.
Okay.
And that way, there can questions with Mr. Botts can occur. And this gives you, so you've got some time on the interior to go get your stuff, as well as have Mr. Botts evaluate the interior, as well as the other components that, I understand there's an exterior sewer issue, which, the city may not necessarily make those improvements right now. I don't know.
No.
But it sounds like what I'm hearing, Mr. Rich, is let's get the exterior cleaned up. You got 30 days. City's going to do that. Okay? They're going to do that. Again, there would be a cost, but you're not out of pocket today. All right? That just gets done, and it will be taken out later when the property sells.
exactly.
That will be coordinated through the city. The city will make it available, the interior available to you by unlocking, Monday through Friday. Preferably, won't you call and say, hey, we're going to come out. I don't know if they want to leave it unlocked every day.
Right.
You can
right.
say, hey, Mr. Botts and I are coming out. They'll have it unlocked for you.
Okay.
And I agree with Mr. Wilson. Let's make sure we have working phones that are being responded to. Do you have Mr. Botts' contact information?
In my phone, I probably do.
Let's just, if we can get that, and that may help Mr. Ritchie and Ms. Holder so that they can get that. They may call him.
And
to
I'm
coordinate.
curious about the sewer problem in the yard as well, because Hamilton County came out and, they've done that a lot in a lot of the East Ridge properties, but they redug my sewer, and I had problems before that much more often, but now I'm still,
You have to call them again.
This is coming from behind the house. Out the back window, there's a clean out the back window, there's a blockage somewhere, and it's a pretty rough one.
Will that impede cleanup efforts on the exterior
It could.
after anything prior to cleanup?
No, we'd have to hire a plumber to have the sewer capped. We'd have to go through WWTA to pull permits, and
I may be putting the cart before the horse. I'm just thinking
I don't think that's,
That might be an issue for Mr. Botts to deal with.
It might be, or maybe between now and February, you think you can do some due diligence to figure out what might be needed to, if we do in fact need to cap that by February?
I can, sure.
Is that, I just don't want.
Well, I mean,
If the sewer's not running to the road, WWTA should take care of that, should they not? Isn't that what we pay the extra for in East Ridge?
No, they won't.
Sewer line running to the house?
I have no idea.
Before-
I can't answer any questions about WWTA.
Normally they won't. They'll fix it only to the road. They
If
don't-
there's not any water running to the house, how are we getting sewer?
I don't think that's correct.
It very well could be dried up by now. We've not been back out to the
just ask.
property,
Unless it's backing up from other properties.
and that might be a total different issue.
Yeah.
I was connected with my neighbor's property years ago. I don't know why it were ever done that way.
It's not good.
No, it wasn't. So WWTA, there was a clean out over there right next to her property, but still on mine. And they were supposed to fix that and put me to where I was connected individually to the sewer
Why don't we
line.
maybe you'll have some more clarity on this by February.
Sure.
Is that, okay?
So I got a question. We're going to clean up the property on the exterior. And then we're going to come back in February and say it's cleaned up, and then we're going to clean the interior so he can inspect it?
Well,
that the
as
phase
I
we're going
understood
through?
it, when I asked the question, if I understood, I could be wrong, but since the exterior is in the condition it's in, all resources can only be dedicated. There's not enough to do exterior while trying to find time for the interior, if I understood that right.
Correct.
That's what I'm saying. So we're going to come back in February and say, okay, that's done. Now we're going to have the city go clean the interior so he can do his inspection.
Or Mr. Botts.
Or Mr.
Which
Botts
one she
has
picks.
had an opportunity, yeah.
Okay.
And so that gives Mr. Botts, gives Ms. Easel an opportunity to get somebody other than the city that may be able to inform the city between now and February. We may find out Mr. Botts is a carpenter and is not qualified and can do this, in which case this body will be able to be in a position by February to address the interior at that point.
And I felt certain, given this amount of time and the things I'm willing to throw out maybe the interior other than the structural or,
May surprise us.
yeah, but other than something like, something I can aesthetically see, I can clean it up myself without, I mean, I definitely would appreciate, but if I have a dumpster, I'm good as far as cleaning and, because I know the rules around walkways and doorways. I just know the basics and I can at least do that in the meantime.
Like he said, he needs a 36-inch walkway path through the house so he can look at windows, everything else, and move from there. I think the motion, we just need to do it in segments right now with focusing on between now and February 14th. Let's see if this works. I'd like to make a motion that we allow Miss Ezel to meet with her contractor by this Friday, the January the 14th, and codes to get an idea of what direction and what his capabilities are with this. And then us be back here on February the 14th, 2022, to tackle the next portion of this. We're going to focus right now on the exterior, cleaning up the yard, all the trash debris there, and our sanitation services will be coordinating, or Charlie Ritchie will be coordinating that with Robert Parker.
And I'll clarify so we get the minutes of, so it'd be, the motion would be that the property remain condemned, that between now and January 14, Ms. Ezel presents Mr. Botts an opportunity to meet with the code and to coordinate the exterior cleanup and removal, and that all exterior be achieved by February 14, at which point we'll be back here for review as to the improvements made and what needs to be done with the interior thereafter. Is that right? Okay. And
Also, make sure we put in there that we do make sure emails are exchanged, phone numbers, any contact points between Mr. Botts, you, Mr. Ritchie, and Ms. Holder.
Ms. Ezel, does that make sense to you?
Yes, if I'm not mistaken, I'll just. You'll get a copy. Yeah.
You'll get a copy of it, but the order will if that, well, let's do first. Let's see. Do we have a?
I'm confused too. I can't wait to get the order.
Well, the order, basically, the order is going to say, the city is this body is ordering the city to go in and make the exterior repairs, coupled with talking with Mr. Botts to see what Mr. Botts thinks he can accomplish on the exterior that he says he'll do and get done before February 14. Otherwise, the city will come in and do it. That's really what the order or the motion is. We're not touching the interior. You'll get access to the interior. If you want to start cleaning the interior, we certainly,
Don't mind.
encourage that. But no one can stay in it. No one can spend the night in it. And then when we get here in February, we're going to have completed the exterior repairs because either Mr. Botts will have addressed those or the city will have. But we're giving, what Mr. Wilson is saying, he's giving you to the end of this week for Mr. Botts to come meet with the city for him to identify what he knows he can get done between now and February 14 on the exterior. If Mr. Botts doesn't present himself by that time, Mr. Ritchie's position is going to be, I'm cleaning it all out.
Right.
Okay? That's what Mr. Wilson, if I understand it, you're giving her that opportunity. So you've got 4 days.
Catch your breath and
Correct. And so Mr. Botts may say he can do it all, and you may be satisfied with
Or he may say, forget you.
He might, and you may be satisfied with the cost that Mr. Botts is going to present to you. But if Mr. Ritchie doesn't hear anything at all, the orders, if we get seconded to pass, are his crew to go in and clean the exterior and to remove all items to bring the exterior into compliance. Any questions as to where we sit now? Does that clarify it? All right.
I have one question. Are you gonna have a dumpster there to put,
We went through this the last time.
Right.
I had talked to,
Parker.
Okay,
supervisor and just see if we have availability.
okay. I guess all this, Mr. Wilson, is that we have sort of assumed that the city has the resources to either put a dumpster or to find a dumpster. You know, Mr. Ritchie, I guess if we come back in February and we know the city just didn't have those resources.
Right, then we won't be, we'll have a reason as to why
That's right,
we're-
we'll address, so. Any questions on what the motion is?
Yes.
I'll have to borrow your notes, right, but we have a motion on the floor.
Question. So did I understand this correct? She's gonna have a meeting with a contractor and decide what part of the outside he's gonna clean up. There is no repairs till the cleanup is done. Is that not correct? You keep saying repairs.
I'm sorry, I should say,
Clean up.
So she's gonna meet with him and decide what he wants to clean up, and what he don't, the city's gonna clean up. Is that kind of what this is
By
about?
Friday.
right, but that has to be done by Friday.
Okay.
And if Mr. Bott says, I can't get all that done by February 14th, Mr. Ritchie's crew will.
There's 2 dates in there, January 14th and February 14th.
That's right.
Basically, the January 14th is the deadline to figure out if Mr. Botts is going to be able to assist at all, and then after that, roll over to the city.
That's right. That's right. And that gives Missy's, I think if I understood Mr. Wilson, he wanted to give her a period to really contemplate and explore what can be done.
Because Mr. Botts can also place liens against your property for any work he does for you. So if you do have him do anything, make sure you have a valid contract written up, drawn up, witnessed and signatures. Because we see a lot of people get liens attached to their house for no reason and they don't know who did it, and it's
Do we have a second on Mr. Wilson's motion?
Okay, we have a first and a second.
Before
All
we
the
have-
details have been recorded.
I think so. Any other questions? Mr. Uzell, are you satisfied with the questions? You may not like the motion, but do you have any questions outstanding?
I have no questions.
Okay.
Okay, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Vice Chairperson Wilson,
yes.
Commissioner Davis, Commissioner Ezell, Chairperson Winters.
Yes, ma'am. Do we have any other business to come before the board tonight? Mr. Ritchie?
But I've got a text now number, but I'm usually. I can always
There's no other
check my
business,
email.
we're adjourned.